I can still hear a lot of background noise.
Okay, can I remove the phone now? Can I remove the phone now?
Hello? Hello?
Can you bring the witness up on the screen, please? Hello, Mr. Jammeh, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. I can. I do hear you.
Unfortunately, we can't hear the witness.
I can't hear me.
He's asking if you can hear you.
OV Van, we can't hear the witness on our end. Mr. Jammeh, can you say something else? Let's see if we can hear you now.
Hello? Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you clearly. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So we'll proceed from where you left off prior to the break.
Yeah.
You told us about your arrest on the 23rd September 1996. You were arrested and taken to Janjanbureh prison. And then you were moved to Farafenye police station. Eventually, in 1997, you told us that you had actually you were taken before a court, before Magistrate
Yeah.
Toure, Bore Toure. Thereafter, you were informed of the charges.
Okay. Yes.
You were
Yeah.
granted bail eventually. You were released, and then you were rearrested about a week later and sent back to
Now,
Janjanbureh. Please correct it.
not a week later. Yes, I'll correct you. See, we were released. We were released on bail on a Friday or on a Thursday.
How is it now? I have
So
adjusted it. How is it?
I crossed to go to Jara to have a nice stop there before I joined my family in Combo. But Friday, at about noon, the police came for me
Thank you very
again
much.
to say that, well, they have instruction to rearrest me.
And so you were rearrested and taken to Janjanbureh prison. Is that correct?
Janjambure, with my colleagues, Siaka and Seni Sabali.
Following your rearrest, considering that at the time you were running for elections, what was
Yes.
the reaction of the UDP, your party, to the fact that you had been arrested?
They objected seriously to the idea of rearresting me after having been nominated. Thought it was unlawful and unconstitutional, and that they demanded categorically that I should be released after having been nominated already. Otherwise, they may consider their participation, whether or not they are to participate in the election. So eventually, and luckily for the country, well, they yielded to the pressure. And a few days later, after Janjambure, the police came for me again to say that, well, I was agreed, I should go home. So that's how I got my freedom together with my colleagues Siaka and Seni.
Do you recall the date when you were finally released?
I have a very bad memory.
That's perfectly
Anyway,
fine. I know we're in January 1997.
it was shortly after the nominations. It was shortly after the nominations. But I had only 1 week to campaign left. I have only 1 week left to campaign for the election.
That's very helpful. So during the time that you were in detention, from the first time you were arrested on 23rd September 1996, under that regime, up until when you were released, finally a week before the elections, were you at any point mistreated while you were in detention?
Well, honestly, I was never tortured. I was never mistreated. Only that we would go to bed by 5 o'clock in the evening, and our cells would be opened by 8 o'clock in the morning. It's very strenuous. It's very bad indeed. So that was it. But I was never maltreated at Janjambra police.
Do you know what effect, if any, your detention had on your family?
Well, it had a very adverse effect on them because you can't imagine just seeing your head of family taken away like that for reasons not explained. It's very painful. See, they had to put up with a very, very difficult sort of condition, living without the head of the family for reasons not explained. But it's apparent that it was based on political motives.
And what about yourself? What impact did that have on you?
Well, I knew, I was not surprised really because I know the type of people who are ruling the country. They have very little regard, if any, for the rule of law. So people in my category should not be surprised by that sort of treatment. See, so I had to manage it as a man, and I made it so. I made it a point of duty that before I left prison, I put down the particulars of all those whose arrests were politically motivated. I think there are about 18 or 19 of them, including Juara. But after my release, list was submitted to my executive committee, and they agitated that all those people who were politically detained should be released as a condition of our participation. And fortunately, the government yielded to their pressure and released all of them except Wajwara.
You mentioned that the people of your category should not be surprised by the treatment that you received, meaning being arrested and detained. What do you mean by people of your category? Which people are you referring to?
I mean, opposition politicians who are opposed to a military regime that has no regard for the rule of law and democracy, for that matter. So that type of treatment shouldn't be surprised, really.
You also told us that you compiled a list of about 18 or 19 names of individuals
Yes.
whose arrest you believe was politically motivated. Do you recall some
Yes.
of the names on that list?
Yes, I can remember Solo Kuruma, who died in detention at Baka also during that other ordeal. Solo Kuruma is one I can remember. The others I cannot remember, but Solo exactly I can remember. Solo Kuruma from Sandu, Daslam. See, so it was quite a long time ago. I can't remember, but I could remember. I took the list and I gave one that they really cooperated and released them, except for Wajwara.
Do you by any chance know what was the reason for the refusal to release Wajwara?
Well, I don't know. One can only imply. Because, he's another radical guy, he was a problem to the government. See, so because of this radicalism, I think that was the reason why they insisted on just detaining him there. See.
The 18 or 19 names that you mentioned, including Mr.
Yes.
Solo Koroma, were they all members
Sure.
of the UDP?
Well, I don't know much about, but Solo, I know Solo very well. Was in Sandu, but the others also, we have been discussing within the cells, and they have been telling me that they are just there for political reasons. And luckily, consideration was given to the request of the opposition party to release those people so that at least they can exercise their franchise.
So you were released finally a week before the elections, and you, I assume, managed to campaign. What was the outcome of that election?
I emerged victorious against Babaju.
And did you have a particular position upon emerging victorious? Did you have a particular
Yes,
position within?
yes, in fact, I was the minority leader from 1997 to I think 2002. I was the minority leader and also a member of the ECOWAS Parliament.
While you served as minority leader in Parliament, the National Assembly, did anything happen to members of your constituency?
Very well, thank you very much for that question. Something serious happened to them. My village, for example, my village in particular, Sikunda, see, they also had their share of the problem, the harassment, see, the politically motivated sort of harassment and imprisonment. Because it happened that my village, sometime in 1999, if I can remember, my elder brother, who was the Alcalo of Sikunda, passed away. And according to our tradition, he should be replaced by the next in line for succession. Because in the Gambia, normally position of Alkali is based on traditional basis. You see, that happened to be me when I was in Parliament. But according to Section 59 of the Constitution, a National Assembly member cannot be an Alkali. So I told my villagers that, well, I cannot serve as an Alcalo because I'm already elected as National Assembly member. So let's choose somebody else. So we agreed on Alaji Saro Jamme, who is actually the eldest person in our Kabilo, although he's my nephew. He's much older than me, but because of the fact that he's the eldest person in the whole Kabilo, Jamekunda, so we unanimously agreed that, well, Saro should be the Alcalo. So at the time of collection of rates and taxes, well, out of 50 yard owners, about 46 paid their yard owners to the Alcalo to be paid to the area council. But when he went to the area council to pay them money, the rates, it was rejected because an Alcalo has been imposed on us who is not on the line to become an Alcalo. So, not surprisingly, the villagers categorically rejected that imposition. They said they would not tolerate it because not a single person was consulted about that man's alcaloship. It was between the Ajajusi and Baba Job. Late. He was imposed on us. Those people said no, they would not accept it. So the area council refused to accept the money. So the Alcalo had to go back with the money. He was called by the Safeway Ajajusi and asked why Sikunda is always opposed to the status quo, the ruling party. Said, well, that is unacceptable. He told the Alcalo that, well, you have to surrender this money to the Alcalo who was imposed on the village as a matter of must. So the Alcalo told him that no, the money is to be paid to area council, not anybody else. Alcalo told him that, well, I took the money to area council, but the area council would not accept the money from me. Then Alcalo was asked, why did he receive the money from the people? The Alcalo told him that, well, I did not force the people to give their money to me, but because I am the chosen Alkali, they voluntarily gave their rates to me. said he has to give the money back to the people. So the Alcalo told him no, that he would not do it. The people reposed their confidence in him and that he would not shirk that responsibility. So the next day, the Alcalo was arrested and taken to Mansaconco police station, detained there for 3 days. A
If I can just ask you.
75-year-old. Yes?
Please continue, and then I'll ask you a few follow-up questions on what you've told us.
Okay. He was detained at Mansaconco police for having received rates from people, from yard owners, for 3 days. As a show of solidarity, those 3 days, the constituents, people of the constituents will go and spend the whole day at Mansaconco for 3 days, knowing that he can only be detained for 3 days and he will be released. So he was released after 3 days. But shortly after that, the president had a tour of the country, his people's tour, and during his meeting with the people of Yaroba's constituency, Yaya Judge's wife, Fatou Njai, told the president that they were surprised because there is a village in this constituency who is not prepared to pay rates. Then the president expressed his concern. He said, which village is that? And that's my village. He said, well, then somebody will go to jail for this. So thereafter, not quite a week, they went after my yard owners. They started with 12 people.
Let me just interrupt you. I'm very sorry to interrupt you. I want to ask a few questions before we move on to the yard owners.
Yes.
You told us that this incident occurred in 1999. Is that correct?
Yes, that is then when the villagers were, yes, yes.
What about
rates.
the arrest of the Alcalo?
The Alcalo in the same year. In the same year, shortly before the arrest of the yard owners.
Do you recall the month or the date?
Well, no, I cannot remember it, but it's sometime before the arrest of the imprisonment of the yard owners. Because of his insistence that because of his insistence that he's not going to surrender the money.
And just to clarify, the person who was arrested was the locally chosen Alcalo, Mr. Alaji Saro Jammeh.
Saro Jammeh, yes.
Thank you for that. You said he was 75 years old at the time.
Yes, more than that, it could be more, yes.
And he was taken to Mansaconco and detained for 3 days.
3 nights, exactly.
3 nights. Do you recall where in Mansaconco he was detained?
At the cell there, police cell.
At the police station?
Yes, police station there.
Do you know if anything happened to him during the 3 nights that he spent at the police station in Mansaconco?
Well, nothing happened because the people show solidarity. They would be there up to 8 p.m. Every day they would go. Would go there and just spend time. They take their lunch and everything. Sit under the trees, bring their attire. See, show solidarity. So he wasn't lonely.
Do you recall the names of the officers or individuals who arrested him?
Well, there again, I cannot remember. I cannot remember. See, I cannot remember.
That's perfectly understandable. I'll ask the questions, but of course, if you don't remember, that's perfectly fine.
Yes,
So after 3 days, he was released,
he was released, yes.
and you told us that
And with the money,
thereafter,
yes. Yeah,
please
thereafter,
continue.
thereafter, something interesting happened. I told you about the president's tour. When Judge's wife made that sort of statement that there is a village in Yara West that has refused to pay rates. That's a gross misrepresentation of what happened. Any yard owner can march and go and pay his or her rates to the council, but Sekunda was denied that sort of that opportunity. So they said they must by force surrender themselves to an alcalde who was imposed. And our people won't do that.
You said that
So as a
Yaya
result of,
Jame, please, yeah.
yeah, Yaya Jajusi's wife, the CFO Yaya Jajusi's wife, was the one who reported the matter to President Jammeh during his tour. And a few days after the president's tour, a summons was sent to our people to appear before Yaya Jajusi's court on a Sunday.
Prior to
It's not
that,
normal.
prior to that,
Uh-huh.
you said during the president's tour, President Jammeh, that
Yes.
is, he said
Yes.
that as a result of the information he received regarding the villagers of Jarasikunda refusing to
Yes.
pay their rates, according to what he was told, he
Yeah.
responded that somebody will go to jail. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were
Yes.
you present during that incident?
No, but the people were there because our supporters were in Sankuya. This meeting took place at Sankuya.
So you were informed of his statement. Is that correct?
About this, I was informed about this statement, and
And
but this was what Yahya Jassis's wife told the president, and it's a gross misrepresentation of what has happened. People wanted to pay. They went to area council. They said no, they will not accept it. And
so
it's the area council.
indeed, a few days after the President Jammeh's statement, you
Yes,
said that on
summons were
Sunday,
distributed. Yes, summons were distributed for our people. 12 of yard owners. They started with 12.
please tell us about
They
that.
they started with 12 people, and most of those 12 are my close relatives. They started with my own brother, who is next to me, the same father and mother, Alaji Chairman number 1. Then Karamosi Sise Jammeh number 2. My nephew. Then Mamadou Jakon Jammeh number 3, also my nephew. Then Ansu Drame, my brother-in-law, married my sister. Then Demba Dobo Drame, also a nephew. Then Masane Sonko, my cousin. Then Jeremane, my cousin. Then Jalo Sise, my nephew. Lampai Sonko, and Karalang Jai. I think they are 11. These are the Sekunda 11.
Just to clarify, was it 11 individuals or 12?
There are 11. I think there are 11 people. Sekunda 11, if I can remember. If you have taken the names, I don't know if there are 11.
Yes.
They were taken, they went to court on a Sunday, and the case took place at Masakunkwera Council premises. And they were asked as to the reason why they failed to pay their rates. Individually, they responded in the negative, that they did not refuse. In fact, they have attempted to pay. But the other council would not accept it. Then they were asked, to which alcalo did you pay your rates? All of them said they paid to Alaisaro Jamme. So all 12 of them were put on board two double cabin, vehicles. Therefore, Yajaisi sentenced them to 6 months imprisonment. And this was in the later part of June 1999. That was the second week of the rainy season, when farmers were very busy. Can you imagine sentencing a farmer second week of the rainy season? What impact that will have on the farmer? That was how they were, taken to Janjambure for 6 months. The judge, she told them that we are going to be sentenced for 6 months at Janjambure prison. That was how they went. They were received at Janjambure on Sunday. And normally court cases don't take place on Sundays. But Sikunda was an exception. It was very urgent for them. So, I felt, I can imagine the sort of situation I would be really. They tried to do this to inflict more victimization and terror on my people. Could you imagine? I was then the elected member, but had a very bad time as a parliamentarian. My people were taken. So we had the Herculean task, Hussein and myself, to see what to do about this. Court cases normally take time to process and to resolve, So we file a suit at the High Court, presided over by Justice Wallace Grant, if I can remember, late. So he ruled in favor of my villagers, that they did not deserve that imprisonment and that they should be released. Not after they have spent 40 days in prison did that judgment came about. After the judgment was delivered, I made it a point of duty to secure a copy of the judgment. It was on a Friday. I sent it to the commissioner of the Central River region. It was Mohamed Bojan then, and another copy to the PO, prison officer there in charge of the detainees, Mr. P.O. Jara, so that at least they could be informed that a High Court ruling was delivered in favor of my people. And after having received that ruling, I felt very much gratified. So I dispatched a 12-seater vehicle to go to Janjambure to receive my people. But it came back empty. Prison officer would not release them, even after having received the order from the court. So we had to file another suit again against that prison officer for having refused to carry out the order of the court. He had nothing to say to justify that. He only said that it was a Friday and, it was too late to release anybody. He told him that I was told by the lawyer that, you imprisoned these people on a Sunday. You received them on a Sunday, but we would not release them on a Friday. What is the sense in that? As a result of that, he was demoted to the rank of corporal and transferred to Banjul Central Prison. He received his demotion. That was where he also encountered his destruction because of my people. So, despite that, my people remained in prison. I had to face the Attorney General then Fatou Bombe and Bensouda. I explained that the court has made a ruling and people are defying the ruling of the court, the rule of the court, as if this is a lawless country. So she felt very much moved by what I was saying. Then the president was on leave at Kanilai. He said he was going to Kanilai to meet him, so that at least this sort of thing ceases. That should be the rule of law. Fortunately, her intervention paid dividend. At long last, my people were released, but not before they spent 40 days in Janjambura prison, where I was. 12 yard owners. Now, I think 5 of them have died. You can refer to your list. Mamadou Jako Jammeh has died. Mansour Drameh has died. Jallo Sise has died. Masane Sonko has died. And Karalang Njai has died. So there were 11 now. Only out of the 11, you have 6 who are alive. Their matter is with the TRRC. You'll face them. They have already filed their complaint to the TRRC. But I think it's a duty on my side because they were victimized because of me. This is why I have to make an introductory sort of statement about these people. You hear from them. So I have made just the introduction.
Thank you very much for that information, Mr. Jammeh. That's a lot of information. You mentioned that 6 of these individuals eventually passed. Do you know if their deaths... Five individuals. Yeah. Do you know if their deaths had anything to do with their detention? Was there any link as far as you're aware?
No. As far as we are aware, this is natural death. Right? They have made that later with the progress of time. Because they all came out well. So I wouldn't say that it's attributed to their treatment there.
Let's talk about the impact of their arrest and detention on the rest of the community in Jara Sikunda?
It has a very serious impact. Can you imagine a farmer imprisoning a farmer during the second week of the rainy season who is only dependent on farming? It's a very serious thing. It's a very serious impression, because their livelihood is dependent on farming. So the people of Sikunda seriously considered this matter. They said, well, these people have just started with 12 yard owners, but we are 50. They'll come for more. So what we do now is to go and do the work on these people's farm. Do the sowing and the weeding while they are there, because we may join them. So the people of Sikunda cultivated the farms of all those people, did the sowing for all these 12 people. And as a show of solidarity, the UDP membership in Jara West also had that the villagers of Sikunda went to do the sowing on these people's farm because they are not around. So they also mobilized themselves and appointed a day when they had to go and do the weeding on these farms. They sent a message to Sikunda to say that, well, they are coming to work, they are going to work on the farms of these 11 people, but they only need water from Sikunda. They are going with their provision, rice, meat, and everything to be cooked. So people came from all villages to go and assemble on these farms, and they completed the work. The weeding was done and everything. Fortunately, those people, their farms did very well. They had a lot of good crop. So when they received that information in prison, that boosted their morale. That was a moral booster. That they saw themselves not alone in the struggle. So they came after 40 days and they received a hero's welcome at the Soma Garas. They were warmly received by the generality of our constituency. So that was how their ordeal ended. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jame. It's very important to hear about communities coming together to help each other. You mentioned that there were 12 individuals who were arrested and detained, and you mentioned 11 yard owners, and you mentioned that, in fact, there was fear or concern that this could happen to others because there were about 46 yard owners. Is that correct?
Yes. I said that.
Did anything happen following that? Did the fact that 11 individuals had been arrested have an impact on the community in terms of who they paid their rates to subsequently?
That was the end. After that case, that stopped. People then were paid rates according to their wish. After the court's intervention.
Apart from that, were members of your constituency victimized again, or was that the only incident?
That was another one. I cannot forget that. That's not part of my notes I sent to you, but I have to mention it. That was 2001. year 2001, I went for an ECOWAS Parliament meeting shortly after general registration of voters. So during the general registration of voters, I went to Nigeria for a meeting of the ECOWAS Parliament. And during that registration, so many people were transported from the combos from different parts of the country to come and register in Jara, mainly in Soma and Karantaba, just to make sure that at least the UDP is defeated at the polls. So there was a lot of illegal registration of aliens from various parts of the country to come and register in Jara West. So as a result of that, after I returned from Nigeria, I told them that, well, there is one way to challenge this. Only the revising court. You have to go to the revising court. So, we discussed this matter with my constituents. For anybody who knows about anybody who does not deserve to be registered, to be taken to court, to the revising court. So, there again, a number of people objected. There are cases of objection in Genoa, cases of objection in Pakalinding, Soma, a lot of objections, Karantaba, Tonyataba. So these were the villages that were affected. But when I came, I made sure that we go to the IEC office to get the counterfoils, to go through them, so that we can determine who does not deserve to be registered there. So, the people who actually took these cases to the revising court were eventually arrested and taken to Janjambure before the end of the court cases. So the problem reverberated in Yara Central also, the same registration problem. I think 5 people were taken to Janjambure from Chapina. They were just taken one day, just taken like that, taken to Janjambure prison and detained there. There again, we have to go to court again.
Do you recall the names of the individuals who were
Well,
arrested and
individuals,
taken to
yeah,
Janjanbureh?
that's right, okay. If my memory can Mamadou Job from Genoa. Mamadou Job from Genoa. Laude Dabo, deceased from Pakalinden. Labali Sise, deceased from Tonyataba. Yakuba Seriba, deceased from Soma. Bubakar Seriba, deceased from Soma. Kasamandin Keta, a woman, the only woman among them, now live in Sherakunda, one of those who objected to aliens being registered. Yes, I think these are the ones I can remember in Jara West. Then Jara Central, my memory can take me right. Lamkunjang Damfa, Japin. Then Solo Sane, Solo Sane Japina, Masane Damfa Japine, Yankuba Sonko Japine, Karamo Sonko Japine. Yes, if I can remember, I think these are the people who are taken to Janjambari prison for this, having taken these people to revising court. And we had to go to court. Mr. Dabo had to go to court to secure their release. Eventually, we succeeded in getting them out.
Do you recall how much time they spent in
Well,
Janjanbureh prison?
yeah, that badge, I cannot remember exactly time, but there are cases in the revising court. We'll see them.
But do you recall if it was a matter of days or months, for example?
The days, I think it's days. Days. Not longer than the people of Sikunda anyway. Yeah, the Sikunda people, they were there for 40 days. But I don't think these people spend that much there. Dabo and his team tried to secure their release sooner. So that also, because these Jara Central and Jara West used to be one constituency. I used to be the candidate there until the APRC came and revised the boundaries, reviewed the boundaries. So that's where the division came. But these people were all victimized because of me.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Jame. I would like to move on to the events of 2016, April 2016.
Yeah.
And I know in your explanation you will give us a bit of a background on how the April 2016 events came about. Can you tell
Yeah.
us about that incident?
Yes, please. Yes, if you can remember, the 2011 parliamentary election was boycotted by the opposition. For the simple reason that the electoral laws are seriously flawed. They need to be revised to create the conditions for free and fair election. So we thought that it's not just ideal for the political parties just to be boycotting elections. We should try to create the conditions for our participation. Then shortly after our boycott, the parties got together, PDIS and UDP, GP, NRP. See, I think these were the major parties that came together and decided that we should write to the IEC before the next presidential election with a view to creating the conditions for free and fair election, because there is no point for political parties to exist and they don't participate in elections. So We wrote to the IEC demanding that,
Sorry,
the
Mr.
IEC,
Jame, can I just
yes,
interrupt you briefly? This is
yes,
for the OV van, I believe. We have a lot of background noise. People are speaking in the background, and I
okay,
don't believe it's the.
okay, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, it's all right now?
Mr.
Hello?
Jame. Thank you.
Uh, okay. So we wrote to the IEC to summon a meeting, and we came up with some conditions, about 17 conditions or something like that, that should be considered by a meeting of all political parties, including the APRC, so that we can discuss this thing and chart a new way forward, so that at least we can have free and fair elections. So the IEC, under the leadership of Mustafa Kerio, at the time, was the one we wrote to so that he can convene a meeting. But there was no reply. See? And I could remember the opposition parties, the ones I have mentioned. We agreed to travel the length and breadth of this country, at least to explain to the electorates why we did not participate in the 2011 election, and also explain to them our demands we think should happen to create the free and fair elections, and the efforts we are making to make sure that all these things are regularized. We had 8 days to tell the country, to explain to the people, because the people should not just be there like that, they don't know what we are doing. We told them that we are also making effort. We are written to the IEC so that the situation can be regularized. Because we can see civil servants, politicking, military people wearing party T-shirts and things like that. You see, and you can only participate as long as you are supporting the ruling party. That's unfair. We said that situation should change. See, so this was what we are pressurizing to see. See, so they did not reply us up to 2015. We sent a reminder. Again, no reply. And our youth were aware of what was going on. Youth also were organizing themselves to create understanding across the parties, because they have a role to play. So, nearer to 2016, they again refused to reply to us. Then come 2016, the election was scheduled for December. These youths, unbeknown to the executive, organized and mobilized themselves to stage a peaceful demonstration, which is permissible by the laws of the country, to demand for the creation of free and fair election. We never knew anything about the executive, never knew anything about that. It was just only 16th, 16th of April, 14th of April, that these people came out. Surprisingly, I only came to know about it in the evening, that there was demonstration, because that day I didn't go into town. We heard that our youths, with the youth president, late Solo Sunday, as the leader, mobilized themselves from Bamboo area to Westfield, heading towards Westfield. their banners demanding for free and fair elections and term limit for that matter. So it was a peaceful march, and they were trampled upon and arrested and malhandled, taken to PIU headquarters, and eventually Banjul. So the matter came to our knowledge, and we found it was necessary to have an emergency meeting of the executive committee of the UDP.
Prior to that, if I can just ask you a couple of questions. You said
Yes,
that they were arrested and trampled upon. By who?
by the PIU, paramilitary police, who descended on them at Westwood area.
Did you hear what they did to them? Do you have any details about
Ah,
what they actually
understand
did?
they were tortured. I understand they were tortured. They were tortured. They were taken to mile 2. From mile 2, they were taken to NIE, the torture chamber. They were taken there,
Do you know the
seriously
names of the
tortured.
individuals that were arrested and taken to Mile 2?
Yes, I can remember
Please tell
some
us.
of them. Solo Sanden, Falan Sonko, Fatoumata Jawara, Fatou Kamara, Nogoy Njai, is a woman. Jukuna Suso, also a woman. Then you have Kafubayo from Tujeren, Ibrahima Jabang, also from Tujeren, Modun Gom, also from Tujeren, Bubakar Jite from Gunjur, I think. Yeah, these are some of the people I can remember at this juncture. See, they are, yeah, so these were some of the people I can remember, although there are more than this. See.
Thank you very much for this information, Mr. Jame. This is certainly a matter that the TRRC will investigate later on. We just want
Yes,
to ask you as much information as you know about it now so that we can
yes,
avoid having to call you again when we start dealing
yes,
with this matter.
yes, yes.
You told us that they were taken to Mile 2 and you received information that they were tortured. Is that correct?
They were taken to NIA.
Taken to
NIA, they were
NIA.
taken to NIA. Yes. So I received a call in the morning of the 16th, early in the morning, around about 7 a.m., from Mr. Dabo to inform me that he had information that as a result of the torture and detention of these people, he had that Solo Sandin died on the night of the 15th. And that he was secretly buried at Tanje. That was the information he received. So that made it necessary for us to have a press conference on Saturday, the 16th, at 12 o'clock.
You said that it was Mr. Dabo that informed you of this information. Just to make
Yes,
sure the
that
record
he
is
got
clear,
information.
which Mr. Dabo are
Yeah,
you referring to?
Mr. Lawyer Dabo, Hussein Dabo, the party leader, told me that he received information and that we should have a press conference. On the 15th, after the demonstration, we had an executive committee with emergency meeting to discuss the matter. So we are thinking of ways and means of securing their release. But a further development came up. That was on the 16th when we had the news of the death of one of them. And that some of the other detainees were in a very bad condition. People like Noko Injai, Fatumata Jawara, and Fatu Kamara, that they were in serious condition. So this was what we had.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about that? You mentioned that it was Mr. Solo Sandeng who you received information had died in custody. Then you
Yes.
mentioned other individuals who were seriously injured or their condition was
In,
serious.
yes.
Can you tell us what
Yes.
information you received about them?
Yes. Well, the information is. Did I name Momodu Momodu Ngom? Did I name
Yes, you
Momodu
did.
Ngom?
From
Uh-huh,
Tangi.
uh-huh. Yeah, that's from yes, from yeah, yes. So uh, we received that these people were seriously tortured overnight, and that Solo had to succumb to the torture and passed away, and that he was secretly buried at Tangier, somewhere in Tangier. This was the information that Mr. Dabo received, and a press conference was summoned, and it was well attended.
Prior to that, how did
So
you feel when you received this information about members of your party?
I
One dying
received the
in
news with
custody, one being
dismay.
tortured.
I received the news with dismay and shock and disbelief. I couldn't just believe it. It was terrifying to do that sort of thing. That sort of thing is alien to Gambian culture. Torture people to death like that. I could not do anything. Then I went out very early that morning. One of the first people who arrived at the venue of the press conference. All the newspapers, all the press men in the country were represented. They attended. So the house was filled, the compound was filled, the surrounding areas in the street, everybody, people everywhere to come and hear what was going on. Then the news spread that Solo was killed, cold-bloodedly. So, Mr. Dabo announced to the public that the object of this press conference was to inform the general public and the press, for that matter, that Solo Sandeng died in custody, the hands of the NIA, and that he was secretly buried in Taiji. The atmosphere was just chaotic. People crying, wailing, just too much. People from Tibakunda, where Solo is resident, quite a number of them came. Everywhere was packed with people crying. So Mr. Labo told them that in addition to that information, he made it clear to them that that was the day when we would go out and demand for Solo Sandeng's body, dead or alive. said, well, if a young man as young as Solo could die on behalf of the country, for the sake of the country, to bring about justice and democracy in this country, why can't we just, what about we who have grandchildren? So he told the general public attending the meeting that, well, that was the day for us to go out. And he also suggested that when we go out, we shouldn't occupy the whole street, but we should only occupy half of the street to allow other vehicles to pass. And that nobody should tamper with any vehicle. Nobody should hold anything. Nobody should use any foul language. We should hold the national flag, every one of us. And we will have only one slogan. Well, I mean, that is, Lisolo Sandeng, dead or alive. This was our song. And he also urged the general public that, well, the front row should be occupied by the leadership. The assistants may not participate, so that in case something happens to us, well, they can take charge of the party. Because if the APRC can afford to kill 14 young students, who would be surprised about killing few old men like us? So that decision was taken. The front row should be occupied by us. I was on his right. Femi Peters was on my right. Lamid Biba was on his left. Modu Sane and Pakeba Kweli, followed by the masses. We were chanting that song, Release Solo Sunday Dead or Alive. At least all the other detainees. We knew that something was going to happen. But if it was not safe for everybody to come out, because if we do that, they can trample on all of us. And that would be the end of the party. But we made sure that there'll be some amount of crop that will take care of the party in the event something happens to us. That's why most of the assistants had to drop, they did not participate. Because we know something will happen that day. That was the day. It would be very irresponsible on the side of the UDP if we let that situation die down like that. That would end up the UDP who would listen to us after having that sort of suffering, that sort of indignity. So we were marching, heading towards Westfield. Then at Comium office area, that was where the paramilitary force descended on us, beating us, hitting us, throwing people on board their truck. Oh, it was serious. The most seriously wounded people, I've named 3. Laushin Dabo was seriously wounded on his head. Followed by Lamin Diba, he nearly lost his eye. Minister of Agriculture, he nearly would have lost his eye. And then Lamin Jata of Bikama, seriously wounded on his head. I also had my share. So I was hit on my head, on my hand, wounded also. But theirs were more serious than mine. So we went to the PIU.
If I can just stop you there, Mr. Jame, just a
Yes,
few
ma'am.
questions. You
Yes,
mentioned 3 individuals. You
yes,
mentioned Momodu Lamin Diba. You mentioned
yes,
Lamin Jatta. You also mentioned yourself.
yes.
Is there any other individual who was seriously injured?
Serious wounded, yes. These are the serious ones I can remember.
You told us that they
Serious,
were hitting you. Do you recall
yes,
what they were using to hit you?
yes, yes. There are batonchions and things like that. You know, just like that. Throwing people, this, this was around Common area, headed towards um, uh, PIU. They arranged mattresses, spread in a big hall, so we are there, men and women.
You
See,
mentioned that the people who were seriously injured, I'm looking at your statement right now, the statement that you
yeah,
provided to the TRRC, and you
yes,
mentioned lawyer Usainu Dabo.
yes.
What injuries did he sustain as far as you can remember?
Seriously wounded on the head, on the head, seriously wounded on the head, not seriously on the head. There was blood over, so they had to go and stitch it together with Lamin Diba. His eye, he nearly lost his eye. They also stitched it. Lamin Jata also. Those are the very serious cases I can remember.
Before we move to where you were taken, just a couple of questions about the individuals that did this to you, as well as the group before, the Solo Sandeng
Yes,
group. Do you
yes.
recall the names of any of the individuals who were involved?
There was so much commotion and things like that, so I could not remember. I don't know them. These are
Did,
PIU people.
did you hear
PIU.
anyone mention any of the names of the individuals who did this, the PIU members? Did you receive any
Well,
information
no,
about who they were?
I cannot remember. I cannot remember.
Thank you for that. So we'll move to the point where you were all seriously injured. Tell us
Yes.
what happened after that.
We were taken to um, uh, the PIU and we were taken to this. Some of us who were seriously went for treatment, and they took us to a big hall with mattresses everywhere. So that's where we were going to spend the night. Men and women, we were all scattered around there. See, so could remember Usman Sonko came there and Yankuba Sonko to come and see us.
Who are these
They were
individuals, Usman Sonko and Yankuba?
Usman Sonko
Yes,
and
can
the
you tell us
Inspector
who they
General.
were at the time?
Yeah, they were the one who came and to see us there. You see, while we were in the PIU there. They
What were
didn't say
their
anything.
roles at the time?
Huh?
Mr. Usman Sonko,
Usman
who was
Sonko
he
was
at
the
the
Minister
time?
of Interior, Interior Minister. Was the Interior Minister, and Yankuba Sonko was the Inspector General of Police.
You said they came to see your group. Is that correct?
Yeah, they came to see us. They just came to look on, but they didn't say anything. I think that was indication that well, they have come to see us, the detainees who were detained. He just stared at us like that and retired.
You said there were about 30 or 40 detainees held in that big hall. Is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Men and women together in the same
men and
place.
women. Yes, yes. Although the women were, there are different mattresses, different mattresses. See, we spent one night there. We spent one night. That was Saturday night. So Sunday morning we were taken out to give our statements, to write our statements. We wrote our statements. So in the evening, we received instruction that we were going to be taken to the maximum prison mile 2. It was Saturday evening.
Can you tell us what happened when you arrived at mile 2? That's
Well,
that evening.
when we went there, David Colley, being the commander of the prison, well, he received us with his team. The documentations were done as is normal when people are received. So we were received and taken to the remand wing, mile 2, which was overcrowded. So everywhere was check of people everywhere. So
At that point, were you told why you were being arrested and
no,
detained at mile 2?
no, nobody told us anything. Just to receive us, detain us. Merely received and detained.
And the 30 or 40 of you were taken to the overcrowded remand wing?
Yes, that's
Is that
right.
what you said?
Different. Yes, we went to different cells in the remand wing. I was in number 11. Hussein was in I think number 1 or 2. Yeah. So we are in different cells. So we were in remand for quite a time. And during that period, we had access to visitors from our family and friends. So up to the time when we were charged.
Can you tell us about the conditions in the remand wing of the mile 2 prison?
Very congested. Very, very, very congested. Poor ventilation, no fans, nothing. Place was hot. Many people bundled together to one place, just packed in one place. But we had to manage it. Some of our mates there were very considerate. They had to surrender their wooden beds to some elderly, some of us elderly people. They had to go underground. See, and at least show their respect and honor for the elderly.
Can you tell us what you
We'll never
mean by
forget.
they had to go underground?
Oh, no, no, yeah. The beds were on top of each other. You can never know it until you go there. You see, so some are under, others are above. So the beds are arranged that way. See, so most of us, because I was in the same cell with Kafubayo, Ibrahima, and others. So we were in number 11 cell, and the inmates there showed us respect. They gave us their beds, which were at least above. You see? So Mr. Dabo said, we are in different cells. Femi and others, we are all in different cells. So that was the period when we were having visitors and food from outside. Every evening, every afternoon, after 2 o'clock, people descending from all parts of the country to come and see their relatives. Many people there. See, so this was the condition we were until the Ramadan. We spent part of the Ramadan there. One thing happened to us during the Ramadan. I will never forget that. On the 20th day of Ramadan, the officers said that, well, they would not allow any more food to enter mile 2. Just because there was a problem in the main yard. So a problem that emanated from Minyard affected all the cells. So we were denied food on the 20th day of the Ramadan. We were forced to eat the bad food. So it was that terrible. The 20th day of Ramadan, when the Ramadan month was about to end, subjecting us to that sort of thing. It's unforgettable. During prayer day, instead of allowing our peoples to come and bring our food, one philanthropist came to slaughter a bull there in Mile 2 and cook food for the ladies when our own food was refused.
Do you recall the name of the individual who did that?
That philanthropist, no, I can't remember. Can't remember the name.
You said there was a
But
problem in the main yard. Do you recall what
there was,
problem?
there was a problem, and this one affected everybody. Main yard is where all the prisoners are. Those people who are sentenced. That's where they are. But the problem that happened there reverberated everywhere. So that was it. I don't know. We had no idea. But we suffered. People brought charity for us on Friday when our food was refused.
You told us
You
that
see?
before you entered remand wing, a number of you were seriously injured. Did you
Yes.
receive any medical treatment while at Mile 2 prison?
Yeah, in Mile 2, actually, we had clinics there where people go for simple medicament and things like that. On serious cases, are taken to Banjo. See?
And how much time did you spend in Mile 2?
Well, in Mile 2, because we went to Mile 2 precisely on the 16th of April, and we were actually sentenced on the 28th of July.
Can you tell us what you were sentenced for, as well as how long
And,
the sentence that was
well,
issued was?
we were sentenced for having organized a demonstration without having permit. It was a peaceful demonstration which um, uh, uh, does not need a permit. So we were wrongly charged. So this was the charge against us. So we were sentenced for 3 years. And that was on the 20th of July when we were sentenced to 3 years imprisonment.
During your trial, do you recall who represented you in court?
Yes, I will never forget that. Some good Samaritans. This country we have good people. Good lawyers stood by us. We will never forget them. Headed by Antuman Gay, Ami Bensouda, Awasise Sabali, Sirif, the minister's younger brother, Sirif Tambedu, Rachel Mendy, Nene Cham, all the others, quite a number of them. In fact, 17 Gambian lawyers stood by us, gratis. We will never forget. Women and men, gratis. See that at least justice is done. That was indeed a moral booster. We were not alone. They were good people. I want to seize this opportunity to say thank you all those people, those men and women who love this country, who mean well for this country. We'll never forget them. I will not do justice to leave this place without saying a big thank you to them.
Mr. Chairman, I note that we've gone over time. Is it okay if I proceed to the end? And then we can take a break after that. I believe that I have another perhaps 10 minutes at most.
Yeah, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that you were sentenced to 3 years, and that was on the 28th July 2016.
20th, 320.
20th July 2016.
Yes. Yes.
Did you in fact stay in prison for 3 years?
No. We did not. The God the Almighty destined otherwise. Our lawyers, who even found it very difficult to access Mile 2, to even talk to us, or even our lawyers, they find it difficult to come. They appealed against this unlawful sort of sentence. See, the matter was in court, and the matter dragged until nearer to the election, when we heard that the opposition parties had the good sense of coming together to form a coalition to end the stewardship of the dictator. Because this was based on the premise that no single party can easily, single-handedly defeat the APRC, which is entrenched with all the bad laws. So political groups came together and decided on a strategy. They came up with a candidate to contest the December 1st presidential election. And that was how President Adam Barrow has come to succeed. Our parties put their individual interests aside, put the interests of the nation first. To end this sort of regime, this dictatorial regime, and open a new page, create the conditions for democracy, the rule of law, and peace and development, to end the country's isolation in the international community. We thank the Almighty Allah that on the 1st of December, the Gambian people spoke and they voted massively for the opposition despite all the odds. We thank the Almighty for His intervention. Because if we had spent that 3 years there, some of us would have died. Because of the condition, we couldn't just tolerate it. Because we were not allowed even a granules to enter Mile 2, let alone food. You'll be compelled to eat very bad food. cherry with sand, my friend. You have to eat it in order to live. Pap with expired milk, virtually no sugar, just salt. So this was the condition. But when the victory of the opposition coalition came about, well, we thank God. And by that time, there was a pending appeal of against our unlawful imprisonment, which appeal took place on the 5th of December. Prior to that, some enthusiasts were even attempting to come and just remove us from mile 2 by force, but they were urged to just wait and wait for the law to take its course. I could remember the day after the victory was announced, there was so much crowd outside mile 2. People were coming in order to try to take us out by force, but Mr. Dabo advised them that that was not lawful. That law has to take its course. We have to wait for our appeal. And that appeal was heard on the 5th. And not surprisingly, the motion succeeded. That we be released because the status quo has changed in the country. And that there were some prisoners who should be instrumental in whatever government is to be formed. So the need arose, the necessity arose for us to be released immediately. And that motion by Honorable Antuman Gay was not opposed. And that was how we gained our freedom on the 5th of December.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Mr. Jame. So you were in prison at that point in time from the 16th of April 2016 until the 5th of December 2016.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what impact that prolonged detention had on you as well as your family?
That had a serious impact on me because I think I should mention at this point, by the time I was arrested this time, there were only children in my house. My wife went to London. Our daughter gave birth to a baby boy. So she went to London to see the baby boy on the 10th of March. Then on the 16th of April, we were arrested. So she had to make a premature return to the Gambia. You cannot imagine a house with no elderly person there. Only the children were there. The atmosphere was just tormenting. It was just serious. They had to make up with the situation. So my wife had to return immediately, yes, after our arrest. It was indeed a very serious ordeal for the family. To see that we are treated in that way. You see.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Jame. That concludes my question. I will hand over to the chairman for the commissioners to ask further questions, and then we will give the witness an opportunity to give a final statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council, for that. And thank you very much, Ambassador Jame Kotoke Kimazeng. Commissioners, you have any questions Commissioner Carr, please, you have the floor.
Commissioner Ka, thank you, Ambassador. I have two questions. The first is, you mentioned how your village was victimized. I would like to know if your constituency was also victimized, for instance, by being denied development projects. That's the first question. The second is, how did you people survive prison, especially during the Ramadan?
Okay, the first question. I said my constituency. They were victimized. There is another element of victimization that I have forgotten about. That has just come to my mind. See, a number of civil servants serving different departments, mainly in Sankuya, Kanikunda, Karantaba, they were dismissed from their jobs, their positions, by a one sentence sort of letter indicating no reason whatsoever. So they were just believed to be supporters of our party. Yeah. So they have been dismissed. The matter has been taken to the courts. A lot of progress has been made, but up till now, decision has not been made. Possibly, I don't know whether that matter also, because some of them have some service, length of service. They have been dismissed purely political motives. See, some from Pakalindi, Sankuya, Kanikunda, Karantaba. These were the villages that are affected. Yes. So we have suffered a lot. From this regime. See, so as I've said, I have the list of the civil servants who were dismissed. That's one lot. The other owners who were jailed, and those people who petitioned against the illegal registration were jailed. So we have three groups, all in one constituency, just to trample on the UDP so that the people fear being members of the opposition. That was the ulterior motive. But they failed to achieve that.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr, do you want to repeat your second question on dealing? Maybe repeat it for him.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second question is, how did you survive prison, especially during Ramadan, given the horrible food that you were given?
It's interesting.
I know you are
You
a
know,
Jaranka. I'm from Nyomi.
yeah, if you can someone like you see, it was very challenging, but one has to be a man. You have to eat in order to survive. You know that their intention was to kill us gradually, just deny us with food that is edible. See, if we had just refused that, we would succumb to their wicked plans. We had to bear and try to eat just to live. And this is exactly what we did. Some of us were reduced to mere bones when we were released on the 5th of December. We had to just to live, manage it. See, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, Commissioner Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Jones, Ambassador Jame, as part of the Commission's mandate, we're supposed to make recommendations for consideration on institutional and legal reforms. And you may choose to respond to my questions when you're giving your final statement. I would like to know, based on your experience as a prominent member of an opposition party during the period under review, and having been a victim of the system at the time, what recommendations would you make to strengthen, one, multi-party engagement, and then secondly, as part of this transition period, the electoral laws are also under review. What recommendations would you also give to ensure that the revised laws are seen to be inclusive and neutral by all the parties?
Yeah, this is a very important question. Our constitution has been very seriously tampered by our former president, mainly to suit him as an individual, to remain in power, to perpetuate himself in power. So people have been given the opportunity to make suggestions so that at least we can have a new constitution that will put a definitive stop to this issue of self-perpetuation. There should be limitation of term that will serve as a deterrent to people who intend to stage coups. The inter-party dialogue also should be sustained and maintained. It serves a very useful purpose. The IEC has a role to play in that, to make sure that at least there is inter-party consultation between the IEC and the parties. This is very important indeed. Yes.
Thank you very much. Indeed, Commissioner Kinte.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Your Excellency Jammeh, I remember you told us when you were arrested, you were first detained at the remand wing. Looking at the conditions, about the food you said, very poor food. The conditions of the area is very swampy, implying that there were a lot of mosquitoes and so on. Before your imprisonment, during remand, and after your imprisonment, were you given like nets and other bedding materials that will at least try to improve the situations a bit, or how were you going on? And also you went with wounds. How much were you attended medically, and what is the level of satisfaction?
Thank you for your question. In fact, when we went there with wounds, they had a clinic. We have a clinic there. And they were treating us. Yes, and when they find it necessary, they will refer you to Banjul, take you to Banjul for further treatment. That was the situation there. So only that when we were taken to Mile 2, they dismantled the television and everything so that at least there is a news blackout. So I think that's a very wrong sort of idea. It's a repressive tendency. That should stop. But by now, I know there are television sets around the cells. There are fans, ceiling fans. Yes. In fact, there is need for rehabilitation of Mile 2. should not be a place to go and kill people, but for people to be rehabilitated, to learn new skills. Under normal circumstances, you have so many tradesmen in the prison. You have carpenters there, you have masons there, you have electricians there, and things like that. So some of them, you can employ them, they can do prison work and earn something. They can have a budget, they can have an account, rather than just dumping them like that. Prison in a state, to be in a state of disuse, to waste like that, that's not helpful. There are so many technicians there. People may be interested in prison labor. You see, it can be organized so that at least labor, machines, carpenters, and things like can go and work, do work and come back. If they are paid, even where they are going to receive half of what people receive outside, it's okay. But let something be enough. And people can also, the prisons can also be used to rehabilitate inmates so that people can learn trades there. It's rather than just wasting there like that. You see, you can learn trade, some form of trade. You see, yes, I think that's better. They can be able to have an account, something, so that they spend time usefully, not just to terrorize them and just leave them to rot like that. No, I think that's a serious matter that should be given consideration. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Thank you very much, indeed. If there are no further questions, some are from the commissioners. Ambassador Jame, before you make your concluding remarks, just want to thank you on behalf of the Commission for a very powerful and enlightened testimony, notwithstanding the heavy diplomatic duties you have from your base in Turkey. You found time to come and meet with us here. We thank you enormously for that. You may now make your concluding remarks.
I want to thank you immensely. You are embarked on a very noble sort of enterprise for the country. Your mission is an honorable one, it's a great one. And people look unto you with hope and great expectation that something will really happen. See, in the first place, I have a point of observation regarding the nomenclature of your mission: truth, reconciliation, and reparation commission. I think I have an observation. I think it should have been truth, reparation before reconciliation. Your mandate is a very noble one, it's a great one. People have great expectation for you. But you have so many victims. Before we talk about reconciliation, I think we should first consider reparation. If that matter is given due consideration, it will make a lot of difference. But priority should not be given to reconciliation above reparation. I have no quarrel with reconciling things, but a lot of atrocities have happened in this country. So there is great expectation that this commission shall seriously look into these cases of atrocities and excesses of previous regime, so that at least we can open a new page and make a fresh start, so that what has happened is not going to be eliminated by anybody. But as I said, if you can give this matter serious consideration, I feel that reparation should come before reconciliation. I have no quarrel with reconciliation. That has to happen eventually, but reparation first. People whose loved ones have been killed, people who have disappeared, people who have been disabled. See, I think we have to deal with that first. What are we going to do with the perpetrators? Otherwise, a situation like this may happen again. See, if the mandate, your mandate is not given the due seriousness and concern, so it can be counterproductive. So I urge you, I pray for you. Mr. Chairman is my junior in school. When I heard about this appointment, I know that it was not a mistake, that a man of his caliber has been appointed, and I wish him success. I wish the councillors, members of the commission, every success. But as I said, I'll emphasize again, please give this issue of reparation the due prominence it deserves. Otherwise, reconciliation can hardly come about. I don't want to be hypocritical about this thing. Reparation before reconciliation. Thank you very much, and best wishes. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Jame. Those guidance, that guidance on the nomenclature, the title of the thing is very good, notwithstanding the fact that the Act does have it in that sequence. When we get to the report, our final report, and the work that we are doing, emphasis is being given to reparations. It's not escaped us at all. We have a committee headed by the deputy chair on reparations that's drafting policies and other things on it. So it's not escaped us at all. We are going to be focusing a lot on reparations as well as on truth and reconciliation. Council, do we have any further meeting this afternoon? You have a witness coming, or do we come back on Monday?
No, Mr. Chair. No further witness for this afternoon. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you Monday morning.
This way, huh? What did